Hey there, I'm Polandig, and today I'm playing a game. It's not Minecraft this time, so that's epic. It's called My Name's You, and it's the only unusual thing in my life. Essentially, it is just an interactive novel where you play as a guy named You. I've already done 2 playthroughs on my own time just to see what it was like, but other than that, let's get right into it. Oh, and actually, right before, there are voices, but I turned them off because yeah. Let's just get right into it. I suppose I will start at the very beginning. Chapter 1. Once upon a time, there lived You. Despite his unusual name, his life was hardly any different from others. It was an unusually usual day when he was getting ready to go to work. 2 hours of sleep. What a formality, he said to himself, glancing at his watch. He was used to working at night, just as he was used to never having days off. That morning, the buttons on his shirt were fastened faster than usual. This was not by chance. The tear-off calendar boldly declared Friday, April 3rd. It reminded him that there were only 3 work days before his holiday, and there was no room for mistakes. His room in a communal apartment was not very big, so it did not take him long to pack. Having got dressed, he quietly walked past the neighbors' rooms into the hallway. Somebody was snoring loudly in the furthest room, which caused you to smile for some reason. He walked up to the front door and accidentally stepped on a pile of letters. Picking up the envelopes, he saw his name on one of them. You automatically put it in his pocket and walked out. The thought that next Sunday, a huge stone would be removed from the entrance to the crypt of his existence by the power of labor legislation kept you going. Should I hurry to work or read the letter? I am going to read the letter. Glancing at the address line, a chill went through Yu's body for a split second. From Darina. Yu was confused by the seal on the envelope indicating the place of departure, no Leavgrad. Is she really coming back to Cannot? Yu wondered. Dear Yu, my doctor's suspicions are confirmed. I have the same disease that struck you. I thought it over and decided that we needed to break up. It may seem that something like that should bring people closer, but it would be unfair to myself. We can have our last date on the morning of April 3rd in the Seafront Cafe. Then I will leave Cannot and go abroad. He felt dizzy. Should I go to work or go to the cafe? I'm going to go to the cafe, cause yeah. Although Yu suffered from excessive hypochondria, he really had an incurable illness. He clearly remembered the day when he heard the diagnosis. Since that moment, he stopped counting the new birthmarks on his body. He seemed shaken up after reading the letter, but not surprised. He tried to squeeze out a tear to see if he was still capable of showing emotions. Alas, he just welled up a little. Yu decided it was because he had drunk a large amount of coffee, which dehydrated his already dried up body. Approaching the seafront, he tried to spot Darina. It did not take him long to find her. There she was, at the cafe table. She probably had no clue how much he appreciated her starting the conversation. Darina, usually you were late. Usually you were late, says Darina. Dot dot dot. Haha. I'm tired. I hope you understand me. But he did not. Having overcome his anxiety, he squeezed out a handful of words. Ask her to stay or agree with parting. I am going to agree with parting. He seemed to be ready for such an outcome and did not hold a grudge against her. Nodding goodbye to her, you hurried to work. He was almost there when he saw his boss enter the office building. He took it as his personal failure, although his watch showed that he still had several minutes. You barely had gotten into the office when he noticed two male silhouettes behind him. He turned around and saw his boss, a man he had never seen before, a little farther away. To avoid unnecessary explanations, Yu took a badge from his table and pointed to it. Yu, despite the fact that there was no live communication with clients, the work charter required to wear a name tag, probably to remember your name. Wow, that's a very unusual name. Nice to meet you. It is the only unusual detail of my life. An awkward pause hung in the air. The boss standing behind Frank frowned and cast a reproachful glance at you. Frank's our security guard, starting the day. Who? I have nothing to. We have nothing to. A security guard. Some of my important documents are missing. There are only two of us. What kind of documents? That I cannot tell you. You mean you suspect me? No, I do not. Eliminating any opportunity to continue the conversation, the boss turned around and went into his office. The room plunged into silence. You got down to some clerical work. Yu was sitting at his sturdy desk, imagining again and again how the shelves stocked with books on jurisprudence would break loose due to their own weight from friable concrete and break his head. Allowing himself a little break, Yu took his diary from his table drawer and made a note. I never took a plate of soup at school lunches, even when I really wanted to. I was afraid to spill it in front of everyone before I could put it on the table, which seems to be my life's pattern. Feeling some satisfaction from writing that, he resumed work. There was a rustling of the janitor's broom and the trill of birds outside the window. More accurate than a clock, you thought. Chapter 2. On the second day of work, every sip of coffee came out of his nose as blood. Covering his nose with his hand, he went to the restroom. Excuse me, I wish I could narrate a little faster and keep you from getting bored, but it is difficult in my condition. Let's continue. Returning to his workplace, Yu saw Frank sitting at his table and leafing through his personal diary. Such violation of personal boundaries, it seemed, was about to put you out of temper. Ask him to give it back, or snatch it back. I'm just going to ask. Give it to me. Here, take it. I was curious. In a moment, Yu hid his diary in the drawer of his desk. I'm sorry if I offended you. The incident seemed to be over, but Frank's intrusive nature got the better of him. Can I ask you a question? Why does everybody in your notes die? Answer keeps silence. Let's answer that. Perhaps the lack of communication affected you. Unexpectedly for himself, he answered the question directly. I'm not sure, but it seems to me that the desire to kill a self-protagonist in the text takes roots in the desire to alienate the described situations from a real self. What? You said it as if he had prepared an answer to this question a long time ago, or at least he had thought about it before. Silence set in. Frank was embarrassed by his answer and tried to look understanding. Well, more likely that it's just easier to kill. The office phone rang. Answer the call or ignore the call. Let's answer. As soon as you came up to the phone, the ringing stopped. He barely returned to his desk when the phone rang again. Answer the call or ignore the call. Let's ignore the call this time. The ring bored into his skull. Yu was buzzing together with the receiver. You involuntarily took off, but his head started spinning and he was seeing dark spots. Holding onto the railing, you slid down the stairs and jumped out into the street. You ran to his boss at the door, who stood there, smoking. Go to bed now. You can give me the rest of the papers tomorrow. He did not have any strength left to work anyways. Although he left some things in the office, he was not in a hurry to go back. He sat down on the doorstep to rest. His vision was not particularly keen on the second day, so it took him a while to recognize a familiar face. You livened a little. A welcoming grin appeared on his face. Hi, Max. Why are you not at work? I dismissed my students a little early. How are you feeling? As usual, another night shift. If I were your father, I would have fired you a long ago. What will be left for me then? Max answered with a question. Do you want me to take your shift? Let's say no thank you. No thank you. You quickly said goodbye and left. He heard some painful cough behind his back and his lips let out a grin of satisfaction. Coming home, Yu could barely stand on his feet. Notwithstanding his lack of sleep and fatigue, he could not fall asleep. The day flashed in his head on repeat. As for the breakup, he did not see himself as a victim. On the contrary, the entire time during his relationship with Thurina, Yu wondered, why did she love him, drained of all strength and weak in spirit from birth? He did not anymore. Dizziness and pain subsided. At some point, he even thought about calling a doctor just to make sure that he was still alive. But sleep took its toll. Chapter 3. The alarm went off. You faced a new day with weakness in his legs and a throbbing headache. All night long, he had been haunted by a painfully familiar nightmare. However, when he woke up, all tangible images dissolved, leaving only a nasty precipitate. His body led him to the kitchen in search of caffeine. Despite the early hours, he found his boss there. How are you feeling? You heard the question, but ignored it because of his sleepy state. How difficult is it to answer? Yu was pleased to hear the words of concern, even coming that way. I'm sorry, father. A cup in Yu's hands inevitably filled with bloody coffee. You look like shit. I feel like it. I do not want to lose my last son, even someone like you. His father had his old wool suit on and was about to leave for work. You do not have to go. You do not have to go to the office today. Get some rest. I mean, he's my father. It was okay. I will try. Let's just go with what father says. You went down to his room and sat down at his desk. He took a pen, then remembered that he left his diary at work. You took some letters out of the drawer, which had not been sent for some reason. He took one of the letters and added a few lines to it. Remember when grandfather made me listen to a rhythmic beat in the air? It is a heartbeat of a gigantic whale who swallowed our universe, and I believed him. What about you? He said it was just train wheels wobbling, so I decided that the whale had died a long time ago, which is better than it just being a fantasy. Do you understand? Asking you is not easy on paper, because you will not answer me. Adding those lines, he felt he had completed something important and allowed himself to take a nap. Once he dozed off, he heard a knock on the door. Any unexpected knock on the door or telephone call could evoke severe paranoia in you. Because the knock on your door is louder and more alarming than any other door. In a moment, there is rustling of envelopes slipping into the mail slot of the front door. Continue sleeping or go to the front door. Let's just continue sleeping for now. It seemed to him that he had been tossing about in his bed trying to fall asleep for several hours. He stayed awake, so he decided to glance through the delivered letters. He had already learned to enjoy his rubbery legs and dizziness. Looking through a stack of utility bills, Yu found the letter addressed to him. It was a letter from the sanatorium where he had undergone treatment that summer. Dear Mr. Yu, I'm afraid I have to inform you that you were misdiagnosed due to a serious mistake on my part. An unfortunate confusion of the documents led me to make a wrong diagnosis. Your debility is of psychological nature, which can be associated with a frequent exposure to stressful situations. You are not suffering from an incurable disease. Please accept my sincere apologies. Your attending physician, K. His legs gave way under him, not because of the weakness, but because of a sudden boost of energy. His heart pounded with the strength of a whale, but with the speed of a shrew. He lay down on the bed, unable to withstand a rush of emotions. With an unusual smile on his face, he was staring at the ceiling. After a few minutes, he asked with horror, "A new chandelier?" This is probably copyrighted music, but I'll just let it go. Oh, wait. I forgot to go through the credits. Alright. That was just one of my playthroughs of My Name Is You, and it's the only unusual thing in my life. I might do more. I most likely will, because I'm very bored of not doing anything. So yeah, I will see y'all in the next video. Yeah, bye.